wrest the power by hook or by crook. And the whole system of electoral politics is fraught with the problems of corruption, malpractices, money power, muscle power at all levels. Looking at this scenario, Fdca thought it fit to invite experts with first-hand knowledge of elections and its manifestations to a brainstorming session by holding a panel discussion on the election scenario in Karnataka, which is going to polls shortly, to create awareness among the public about the issues involved so that they are wiser to vote the correct party to power. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to all our learned speakers. Honorable Justice retired Sri Nagmohan Das, who retired from the High Court of Karnataka after an illustrious service of more than 10 years, is a very popular judge in the state. He is a social activist and very liberal-minded judge who has always advocated the course of democracy and secularism. He has written a number of books on law with the primary intention of creating legal awareness among the general public. His book, Samvidhana Odu, is aimed at creating awareness about the Constitution of India. He has held sessions at most of the districts of Karnataka, almost with a missionary zeal to spread word about the Constitution and make people read his treatise. His latest book, Nyanga Valanota, was released just yesterday by Honorable retired Supreme Court Judge Sri Shivraj Patil. He headed a commission on the status of Lingayat community in Karnataka and submitted a report to the government recommending that Lingayats should be treated as a separate minority community, which was widely appreciated. He also practices in the High Court and Supreme Court. A hearty welcome to you, sir. Ravi Varma Kumar started his career as a lawyer in 1975. He regularly practices in the Karnataka High Court and the Supreme Court of India. He is a highly regarded legal expert on constitutional matters. During his younger days, he has been an ardent activist and advocate of social justice in the path of his mentor, Sri L.G. Havnur, and has taken part in people's movements and has taken a leading role in the DSS Karnataka Rajya Rayat Sangha. He was first president of the Backward Classes Commission and has also served as an Advocate General of Karnataka government. He has received a number of awards. In recognition of his services, Tumkur University has conferred on him an honorary doctorate. We warmly welcome you, sir. Sri Arvind Narayan. He is a product of National Law School, Bangalore. A highly distinguished lawyer, has authored a number of books. His book, Understanding India's Undeclared Emergency, is an highly acclaimed book which takes a look at emergency back in 75 and now the undeclared emergency. He is a former member of Alternative Law Forum, founder member of Alternative Law Forum, and at present heads the PUCL in Karnataka. We heartily welcome you, sir. Mr. Devasahayam is a former Army and Indian Administrative Service officer, an economist, soldier, administrator with a distinguished career spanning over 5 decades. He holds a degree in MA in economics from Loyola College, Madras. He moved to IAS Haryana cadre and worked in several senior positions. We welcome you, sir, to this function. Another speaker on this occasion is Dr. Vasavi, who is an anthropologist by profession and also a social activist. She is also involved in a lot of social activities. I welcome you, madam. Another speaker who is yet to come, he is stuck up in another function, is Dr. Saad Belgami. By profession, he is a neurologist and he is the state president of the Jamaat-e-Islami Hind. He is a learned speaker and he is a highly erudite person. He will be joining us within a few minutes. And not last but the least, I welcome Dr. Taha Mateen, who is the moderator of today's function. He is a well-known figure in Bangalore, also in Karnataka. He is the president of the Jamaat-e-Islami Hind Bangalore, and also he is a member of the council of Jamaat-e-Islami Hind. He is a highly regarded speaker, especially in interfaith dialogue. He takes part regularly, and he's a very learned person, as you will know shortly. I welcome you, sir. I welcome all of you. There are a number of people, intellectuals, civil service officers, and a number of other dignitaries have come on our invitation. I welcome all of you, ladies and gentlemen, heartily. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Pasha, for that introduction and welcoming of the guests. This is a very small but very important audience. It's been designed to keep it small, but an intellectual, learned, active, concerned group of citizens who are here. Each one is equivalent to, maybe 100 or 1,000 people coming into this. So we really value the quality of people here. They're people with a heart, they're people with thinking, they're people with knowledge, and with a certain concern. And those concerns include, that are common to all of us, is a commitment to democracy, a commitment to the constitutional values that are stated in the preamble, a commitment to freedom, a commitment to equality. And obviously, a lot of people feel suffocated with the restrictions that are going around, the criminalization of politics, the politics of hate and fear, and the fact that things are not being inclusive anymore are things that alarm us, and we need to do something about it. And that is the context of today's discussion here. And to open the discussion, I invite Professor Ravi Verma Kumar, who is the former Advocate General and Senior Counsel of the Karnataka High Court, to speak on criminalization of elections. Sir. Right. We had, after the discussions, we had an event called the Release of the Citizens Manifesto for Karnataka Elections 2023. You might have seen, most of you must have seen that manifesto and might have signed that manifesto. on the demand of the press, and obviously that manifesto is being released for popular consumption for the press, so that it goes out from this August audience to the rest of the state and rest of the country. So I request Madam Katyayani to take that manifesto. Yes, sir. And I request the president of the occasion, Justice Nagmohan Das Sahab, to please take it off and make a release of the manifesto. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for releasing that manifesto. I hope it will go a long way in changing the narrative for this coming elections and the scenario. I invite Professor Ravi Verma Kumar to speak on the criminalization of elections, sir.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೇಳಿಸುತ್ತಾ? ಕೇಳಿಸುತ್ತಾ?
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ತಿಳಿಯುತ್ತಾ? ಧನ್ಯವಾದ. ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೇ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಈ ದಿನದ ಈ ಒಂದು ಅರ್ಥಪೂರ್ಣ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷತೆಯನ್ನು ವಹಿಸಿರುವ ಗೆಳೆಯರಾದ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಹೈಕೋರ್ಟಿನ ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಇವತ್ತು ಪ್ರಖ್ಯಾತರಾದ ಜಸ್ಟಿಸ್ ನಾಗಮೋಹನ್ ದಾಸ್ರವರೇ, ನನ್ನ ಜೊತೆ ಇಂದು ಮಾತನಾಡಲಿರುವ ನನ್ನ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರಾದ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ AR ವಾಸವಿ ಅವರೇ, ಅರವಿಂದ್ ನಾರಾಯಣ್ ಅವರೇ, ಶ್ರೀ MG ದೇವಸಹಾಯಂರವರೇ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೆರೆದಿರುವ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರೆ, ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ರೂವಾರಿಗಳಾದ ಶ್ರೀ ರಫೀಕ್ ಅವರೇ, ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ಕಾತ್ಯಾಯಿನಿ ಅವರೇ, ನನ್ನ ಸಹೋದ್ಯೋಗಿಗಳಾದ ಪ್ರಿಯಾಂಕಾ, ವೇದಿಕಾ, ಮಂಜುಳಾ ಮತ್ತು ಸಿಂಧೂರ್ ಅವರೇ, ನನ್ನ ಹಿಂದಿನ ಸಹೋದ್ಯೋಗಿಯಾಗಿದ್ದ ಶ್ರೀ ಸನಾವುಲ್ಲಾ ಅವರನ್ನು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಅವರು ನನ್ನ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಹಿಂದೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹಾಗೂ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರೆ ಮತ್ತು ಮಾಧ್ಯಮ ಮಿತ್ರರೇ, ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ನಿನ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸರ್ಸು ಒಂದು ರೀತಿ ಭಾಳ ಮೈಸರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ದೊಡ್ಡ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು 15 ನಿಮಿಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಮುಗಿಸಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಕ್ರಿಮಿನಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಪಾಲಿಟಿಕ್ಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತನಾಡಬೇಕು, ಅದು 15 ನಿಮಿಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಗಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಬಹುಶಃ ನನ್ನ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಒಂದು ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಕೂಡ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇಷ್ಟು ಮಾತ್ರ ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇಚ್ಛೆ ಪಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಸೂಕ್ಷ್ಮವಾಗಿ ಈ ವಿಚಾರದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತಿಳಿಸೋದಾದರೆ, ನಾವು ಈ ವಿಚಾರವನ್ನು ಚರ್ಚೆ ಮಾಡುವ ಹಂತವನ್ನು ದಾಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಕಾರ್ಯೋನ್ಮುಖರಾಗಬೇಕಾದಂಥ ಒಂದು ಅನಿವಾರ್ಯತೆ ಇದೆ. ನಾವು ಬರೀ ಮಾತನಾಡ್ತೇವೆ, ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ, ರೆಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸು ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಆದರೆ ಯಥಾ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ವೋಟ್ ಹಾಕಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೀತಾ ಇರುವ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕ್ರಿಮಿನಲೈಸೇಷನ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಪ್ರತ್ಯಕ್ಷ ಸಾಕ್ಷಿಗಳು, ಮೂಕ ಸಾಕ್ಷಿಗಳಾಗಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಇಫ್ ನಾಟ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಪ್ಲೇಯಿಂಗ್ ಅನ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ರೋಲ್ ಇನ್ ಸಚ್ ಫ್ರಾಡ್ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಟೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್. ಸೊ ಈ ಒಂದು ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಕೆಲವು ಮಾಹಿತಿಯನ್ನು ಮಾತ್ರ ಕೊಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇಚ್ಛೆ ಪಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೆರೆದಿರುವ ಚಿಂತಕರಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ವಿಚಾರದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಆಳವಾದ ಅಧ್ಯಯನ ಅಥವಾ ಮಾಹಿತಿ ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದಾದರೆ ಅಗತ್ಯ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಮಾಹಿತಿಗಳ ಒಂದು ಇದನ್ನು ನಾನು ಕೊಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇಚ್ಛೆ ಪಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಭಾಳ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಡೆಲ್ಲಿ ಹೈಕೋರ್ಟಿನ ಮುಖ್ಯ ನ್ಯಾಯಾಧೀಶರಾಗಿದ್ದಂಥ AP ಶಾರವರ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾರತದ ಲಾ ಕಮಿಷನ್ ಒಂದು ಸಮಗ್ರ ವರದಿಯನ್ನು ಈ ವಿಚಾರದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಂಡಿಸಿದೆ. ತಾವುಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಆ ಒಂದು ವರದಿಯನ್ನು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಕ್ರಿಮಿನಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಪಾಲಿಟಿಕ್ಸ್ದ ಅಗಾಧತೆ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾಹಿತಿ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ ಮತ್ತು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಬಹುದಾದಂಥ ಕೆಲವು ಸೂಚನೆಗಳಿದೆ. ನನಗೇನು ಅಷ್ಟು ಸಮರ್ಥ ಸೂಚನೆಗಳು ಅಥವಾ ಅನುಸರಿಸಬಹುದಾದಂಥ ಸೂಚನೆಗಳು ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಇಟ್ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಸ್ ಎ ರಿವಿಸಿಟ್. ಬಟ್ ಅವರು ಇದನ್ನು ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಏನು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇದೆ, ಯಾಕೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾನೂನು ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಕ್ರಿಮಿನಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ತಡಿಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಭಾಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಆಘಾತಕಾರಿ ಸುದ್ದಿ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ಎಷ್ಟು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಸಂಖ್ಯೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಮತ್ತು ವಿಧಾನಸಭೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಆರೋಪಿಗಳು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆರೋಪಿಗಳೇ ಇವತ್ತು ನಮಗೆ ಕಾನೂನನ್ನು ರಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಗಂಭೀರವಾದಂಥ ಆರೋಪಗಳನ್ನು ಎದುರಿಸ್ತಿರೋರು ಮತ್ತು ಗಂಭೀರವಾದಂಥ ಆರೋಪಗಳಿಗೆ ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಶಿಕ್ಷೆಯನ್ನು ಅನುಭವಿಸ್ತಾ ಇರೋವಂಥವ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಅಧಿಕಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಂದುವರೆದು ನಮಗೆ ಶಾಸನವನ್ನು ರಚನೆ ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ ಆಘಾತಕಾರಿ ವಿಷಯವನ್ನು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ಯಾರು ಕಾನೂನು ಮುರಿಯೋದರಲ್ಲಿ ಪರಿಣಿತರಿದ್ದಾರೋ ಅವರು ಕಾನೂನು ರಚನೆ ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ ಅಧಿಕಾರವನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟು ನಾವೇ ಕತ್ತಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಕತ್ತು ಕುಯಿಸ್ಕೋತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಈಗಿರುವ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪರಿಹಾರಗಳು ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ಕ್ರೈಮ್ ಕಮಿಟ್ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಉದ್ಭವಿಸಿರುವಂತಹ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿಯನ್ನು ಹೇಗೆ ನಿಭಾಯಿಸಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕಾನೂನುಗಳು. ಒಂದು ಅಫೆನ್ಸ್ ಆದಮೇಲೆ, ಈಗ ಮೊನ್ನೆ ರೆಸ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಫೆಡರೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ 7 ಬಾರಿ ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟಿಗೆ ಚುನಾಯಿತನಾಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಆತನ ಮೇಲೆ ರೇಪ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಬಹಿರಂಗವಾಗಿ ಧರಣಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಆತ ಇನ್ನೂ ಅಧಿಕಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಂದುವರಿತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. ಇದನ್ನು ಗಮನದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು. ಅವನ ಮೇಲೆ ಎಂಥದೋ ಒಂದು ಎನ್ಕ್ವೈರಿ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನು ತಲೆ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಬುಡ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ಇಂಥ ಗಂಭೀರ ಆರೋಪಗಳನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ್ಯೂ ಕೂಡ ಕನಿಷ್ಠ ಪಕ್ಷ ಪೊಲೀಸ್ನವರು ಒಂದು FIR ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಇದುವರೆಗೆ ಒಂದು FIR ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೋಮೋಟು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಿತ್ತು. ಬಹಳ ಗಂಭೀರವಾದಂಥ ಇದು, ಇಡೀ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಮಾನಕರವಾದಂಥ ಘಟನೆ. ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ರೆಸ್ಲರ್ಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ನಡೆದಿರುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಸೆಕ್ಷುಯಲ್ ಅಸಾಲ್ಟನ್ನು ಇಡೀ ದೇಶ ಮೂಕ ಪ್ರೇಕ್ಷಕವಾಗಿ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶನ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ಈ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಕಾನೂನಿನ ಮೇಲೆ ಇನ್ನು ಎಷ್ಟು ದಿವಸ ಭರವಸೆ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ನ್ಯಾಯಾಂಗದ ಮೇಲೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಎಷ್ಟು ದಿವಸ ನಾವು ಭರವಸೆ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು, ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತಲೂ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಪೊಲೀಸ್ನವರಿಂದ ಈ ಅಪರಾಧಿಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಆರೋಪ ಹೊರಿಸಿ ನ್ಯಾಯ ವಿತರಣೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನನಗೆ ಭಾಳ ನಿರಾಶೆ ಇದೆ.
ಇರಲಿ, ನಂತರ ಕೊಡ್ತೇವೆ ಬಿಡಿ. ನಂತರ ಕೊಡೋಣ ಬಿಡಿ, ನಂತರ ಕೊಡೋಣ ಬಿಡಿ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದನ್ನ ಮಾಹಿತಿಯನ್ನ ಒಂದು PPT ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್
ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ತಮ್ಗೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಒದಗಿಸೋ ಥರ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡಲಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಪ್ರಮುಖವಾಗಿ 3 ದಾಖಲೆಗಳನ್ನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಕೊಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇಚ್ಛೆ ಪಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಒಂದು, ಕಾನೂನಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಕ್ರಿಮಿನಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ತಪ್ಪಿಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅಥವಾ ಕ್ರಿಮಿನಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ನಡೆದಿರುವಂಥ ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂಥವರ ಮೇಲೆ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಅವರನ್ನು ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ವಾಲಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಎಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷಗಳವರೆಗೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣ ಮಾಹಿತಿಯನ್ನು ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟ ಪರಿಚಯ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಡುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಲೇಖನ ಇದೆ, ಒಂದು ಪಟ್ಟಿ ಇದೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂವಿಧಾನದ ಪರಿಚ್ಛೇದಗಳಿದೆ, ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಪೀನಲ್ ಕೋಡ್ನ ಸೆಕ್ಷನ್ಗಳಿದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲಕ್ಕಿಂತಲೂ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ರೆಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟ್ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿರುವಂತಹ ವಿಚಾರಗಳನ್ನು ತಮ್ಮ ಮುಂದೆ ಇಡಲಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇಷ್ಟು ಮಾತ್ರ ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇಚ್ಛೆ ಪಡ್ತೇನೆ. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ಮತ್ತು ಕಾನೂನುಗಳು ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆದಂತಹ ಸಾಧನಗಳನ್ನು ಮತ್ತು ಪರಿಕರಗಳನ್ನು ನಮಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೆ. ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಅಪರಾಧಿಗಳನ್ನು ನಮ್ಮ ರಾಜಕೀಯದಿಂದ ದೂರ ಇಡಬೇಕು, ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತಲೂ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಅಪರಾಧಿಗಳನ್ನು ಹೇಗೆ ನಾವು ಸಂಸತ್ತಿನಿಂದ ಮತ್ತು ವಿಧಾನ ಪರಿಷತ್ತುಗಳಿಂದ ಅಥವಾ ವಿಧಾನ ಸಭೆಗಳಿಂದ ಹೊರದೂಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆನೂ ಕೂಡ ಭಾಳ ಸಮಗ್ರವಾದ ಮಾಹಿತಿ, ಭಾಳ ಸಮರ್ಥವಾದಂತಹ ಕಾನೂನನ್ನು ನಾವು ರಚಿಸಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಆದರೆ ಈ ಕಾನೂನುಗಳು ಯಾಕೆ ಯಶಸ್ವಿಯಾಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕೆ ಅದರ ಉದ್ದೇಶವನ್ನು ಸಾಧನೆ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ನನ್ನ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ 3 ಮುಖ್ಯ ಕಾರಣಗಳಿದೆ. ಮೊದಲನೇದಾಗಿ, ನಮ್ಮ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಮಿಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಮಿಷನ್ ತನ್ನ ಕರ್ತವ್ಯವನ್ನು ನಿಭಾಯಿಸುವುದರಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣವಾಗಿ ವಿಫಲವಾಗಿದೆ. ಬದಲಾಗಿ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಮಿಷನ್ನೇ ಈ ಕ್ರೈಮ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಕಮಿಟ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಡುತ್ತಿದೆಯಾ ಅನ್ನುವ ಗುಮಾನಿ ಇವತ್ತು ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರದ ಜನತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿದ್ದರೆ ಅದು ತಪ್ಪು ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಉದಾಹರಣೆಗೆ, ಒಂದು ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಡಿಕ್ಲೇರ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಹೇಗೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಡೇಟನ್ನೇ ಮ್ಯಾನಿಪುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಮಿಷನ್ ಅಂದರೆ, ಆಳುವ ವರ್ಗಕ್ಕೆ ಅನುಕೂಲಕರವಾದಂತಹ ದಿನಾಂಕಗಳನ್ನು ನಿಗದಿಪಡಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಆಳುವ ವರ್ಗ ತಾನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ ಭ್ರಷ್ಟಾಚಾರವನ್ನು ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣವಾಗಿ ಜಾರಿಗೊಳಿಸಿದ ನಂತರ ಕೊಳ್ಳೆ ಹೊಡೆದ ಮೇಲೆ ಕೋಟೆ ಬಾಗಿಲು ಹಾಕಿದ್ರು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ನೋ ಥರ ಇವರು ಡೇಟ್ ಅನೌನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಕಾಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ರೂಲ್ಸ್ನ ಜಾರಿಗೆ ತರ್ತಾರೆ. ಎರಡನೇದಾಗಿ, ಭಾಳ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ, ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಮಿಷನ್ನ ವೈಫಲ್ಯಕ್ಕಿಂತಲೂ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗಿ ಜಾರಿ ನಿರ್ದೇಶನಾಲಯಗಳು ಕಾನೂನನ್ನು ಜಾರಿಗೊಳಿಸಬೇಕಾದ ಪೊಲೀಸರು ಕಾನೂನನ್ನು ಜಾರಿಗೊಳಿಸಬೇಕಾದ ಜಾರಿ ನಿರ್ದೇಶನಾಲಯಗಳು, ಉದಾಹರಣೆಗೆ ಎನ್ಫೋರ್ಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟರೇಟ್ ಅಥವಾ CBI, ಈ ಥರದ ಕಾನೂನು ಜಾರಿಗೊಳಿಸಬೇಕಾದಂತಹ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಗಳೇ ಇವತ್ತು ಆಳುವ ವರ್ಗಕ್ಕೆ, ಅಪೋಸಿಷನ್ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಗಳನ್ನು ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡಲಾಗಿದೆ, ಬಲಿ ಮಾಡಲಾಗಿದೆ. ಮೂರನೇದು, ಇವತ್ತು ಆಳುವ ವರ್ಗ ಯಾವ ಮಟ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಭ್ರಷ್ಟಾಚಾರವನ್ನೇ ಲೆಜಿಟಿಮೈಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ, ಲೀಗಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ ಪ್ರಕ್ರಿಯೆಯನ್ನು ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ಎರಡು ಉದಾಹರಣೆ, ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಐ ಗಿವ್ ಯು 2 ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್. ಒಂದು, ಎಲೆಕ್ಟರಲ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ಸ್. ಎಲೆಕ್ಟರಲ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಸನ್ಮಾನ್ಯ ಪಾಷಾ ಅವರು ಅದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಉಲ್ಲೇಖ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಒಂದು, ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಲ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಯಾರು ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಯಾಕೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಯಾವ ಆಧಾರದ ಮೇಲೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಇದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯ ಮಾಹಿತಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಮತ್ತೆ ನ್ಯಾಯಾಂಗ ಕೂಡ ತಲೆ ತಗ್ಗಿಸುವಂತಹ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿರೋದೇನೆಂದ್ರೆ, ಇದುವರೆಗೆ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಲ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅದು ಸಂವಿಧಾನಬದ್ಧವೋ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ಬಾಹಿರವೋ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ತೀರ್ಪನ್ನು ಕೊಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹಿಂದೆ ಮುಂದೆ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಪ್ರಕ್ರಿಯೆಯನ್ನು ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಸೊ ದಿ ಜುಡಿಷಿಯರಿ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಲೆಟ್ ಡೌನ್ ದಿ ನೇಷನ್ ಇನ್ ನಾಟ್ adjudicating on the issue for so long. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ PM ಕೇರ್ಸ್ ಫಂಡ್, ಇದು ಭ್ರಷ್ಟಾಚಾರ ಅಲ್ಲದೆ ಮತ್ತೇನು? ಹಣ ಕೊಟ್ಟವರಿಗೆ ರಸೀತಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಹಣ ಕೊಟ್ಟವ್ರಿಗೆ ಮಾಹಿತಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಕೊಟ್ಟ ಹಣ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರದ ಮುಂದೆ ಅದರ ಇದನ್ನು ಮಾಹಿತಿಯನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ. ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ನ್ಯಾಯಾಂಗ ಅತ್ತ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಇತ್ತ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಹೀಗಿರುವ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಾರಣಗಳ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನನ್ನ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ವೈಫಲ್ಯ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯದಲ್ಲ, ಕಾನೂನಿನದಲ್ಲ, ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಗಳದಲ್ಲ, ಈ ದೇಶವನ್ನು ಆಳ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಜನರ ವೈಫಲ್ಯ, ಅಂದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ವೈಫಲ್ಯ. ನಾವು ಆಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು, ವಿ ಆರ್ ದಿ ಸಾವರಿನ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿಸ್ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ತವ್ಯಗಳನ್ನು ನಾವು ಎಲ್ಲೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ತವ್ಯ ಚ್ಯುತಿಯಿಂದ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ? ನಾನು ಇದಕ್ಕಿನ್ನೂ ನಿರಾಶಾದಾಯಕ ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಹಲವಾರು ಸಲ ಜೈಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿಯನ್ನು ನಿಭಾಯಿಸುವಂತಹ ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿಯಲ್ಲಿ 1975ರಲ್ಲಿ ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ಇಂದಿರಾ ಗಾಂಧಿಯವರು ಹೇರಿದ್ದ ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ದೇಶಕ್ಕೆ ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ಪ್ರಜಾತಂತ್ರ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ವೇನೋ, ಉಳಿಯೋದಿಲ್ವೇನೋ ಅಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಮಾಡ ಕವಿದ ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶದಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಆಸೆಯನ್ನು ಕಳೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಏಕೆಂದರೆ 2 ವರ್ಷದ ಒಳಗೆ ಈ ದೇಶದ ಜನತೆ ಎದ್ದು ನಿಂತು ಮೈ ಚಳಿ ಕೊಡವಿ ಆ ಒಂದು ದುಷ್ಟ ಸರ್ಕಾರವನ್ನು ಒದ್ದೋಡಿಸಿತು. ಅದು ಇವತ್ತು ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಜನತೆಯ ವೈಫಲ್ಯ. ಅವತ್ತು ಕೂಡ ದಿ ಜುಡಿಷಿಯರಿ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಫೇಲ್ಡ್, ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಮಿಷನ್ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಫೇಲ್ಡ್, all the law enforcing agencies had failed, but the people stood for democracy and restored the constitution to its original glory. ಸೊ ಇವತ್ತು ಅದಾಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ನಾನು ಬ್ಲೇಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತೇನೆ. ವಿ ಆರ್ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸಿಬಲ್, ವಿ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್. ಸೊ ಆ ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ರೂಪಿಸಿದ ಕೆಲವು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಗಳನ್ನು ಪಟ್ಟಿ ಮಾಡಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ನನ್ನ ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನು ಮುಗಿಸ್ತೇನೆ. ಒಂದು, ನಾವು ಅವಾಗ ಜಯಪ್ರಕಾಶ್ ನಾರಾಯಣರ ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣ ಕ್ರಾಂತಿ ಚಳವಳಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹಮ್ಮಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಂತಹ ಒಂದಿದು. ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಲಿಸ್ಟೆಡ್ 10 ಪೊಟೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಚೀಫ್ ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾಂಡಿಡೇಟ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ. ಆ 10 ಜನಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ನಮ್ಮದೇ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿಯ ವಿಜಿಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಕ್ವಾಡನ್ನು ನಾವು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಅವರು ಚುನಾವಣಾ ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಂತೆಂತಹ ಅಪರಾಧಗಳನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅದರದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ದಾಖಲಿಸಿಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅವರನ್ನು, ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಬಂದಿದ್ದರಿಂದ ಅದು ಜಾರಿಯಾಗಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಮತ್ತು ನಮಗೆ ಆಗ ಸಾಧನಗಳು ಕೂಡ ಸಾಧನಗಳ ಸಂಪನ್ಮೂಲಗಳ ಕೊರತೆ ಇತ್ತು. ವಿ ಡಿಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಫೋನ್ ಆ್ಯಸ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಇಟ್ ಟುಡೇ. ಅದಿದ್ದಿದ್ರೆ ಬಹುಶಃ ಈಗ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನು FDCAನವರು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. We are under, we have the leadership of a very efficient police officer who has that eye for vigilance. You constitute 5, if not 10 committees to act as a watchdog, to record hate crimes and document them and properly, immediately initiate prosecution. First, bring it to the notice of the Election Commission of India. So you have a vigilance committee with 5 squads of vigilance committee which can go into these aspects to prevent hate crimes and to see that persons who are violating the law, particularly those who are spending beyond the statutory limitation. Now that's a very, very easy task. All of us, we see that happening in every constituency. ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರದಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ನಿಗದಿಪಡಿಸಿದ ಹಣಕ್ಕಿಂತಲೂ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಹಣ ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಅಭ್ಯರ್ಥಿಗಳು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಎಲ್ಲರನ್ನೂ there is a rat race to bribe the voters and spend money. ಸೊ ಇದನ್ನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಆ ಥರದ ಒಂದು ಟಾಸ್ಕ್ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ರಚನೆ ಮಾಡುವುದರ ಮೂಲಕ FDCA should lead the nation by providing an example how we can prevent criminalization of politics. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you, Professor, for a short and excellent talk on criminalization. If you could summarize in less than a minute in the English language. First of all, he kind of alluded to all of us being passive criminals, so to say, or supporters of crime for everything that is happening. In the unfortunate scenario where lawbreakers have become lawmakers, and the fact of what is happening right now with the Wrestling Federation of India, such a serious allegation, there's not even an FIR. There is some kind of committee which is mostly an eyewash, nothing happening, and all of us are watching silently, dumbstruck, without opening our mouths and not even demanding that an FIR, a suo motu notice be taken about this. All this makes all of us very cynical about how long do we wait? I mean, how long do we wait for police to act? How long do we wait for the for the justice system to take action on all this criminalization? And he reminded us that the actual, I mean, our constitution is very, very powerful. Our law is very strong on this to prevent this criminalization, and the Representation of People's Act very clearly specifies that. And he also reminded us that it's not the government which is sovereign, but it is the people who are sovereign, and therefore we need to take action. We need to work hard. We don't leave it to others. It is the onus of removing this criminalization not only falls on the justice system, the police system, but on our shoulders too. And Professor Kumar told us of how he was so active and how the groups were active during the emergency that Mrs. Indira Gandhi had put up in 1975, working under the very, very honorable Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan. They kind of listed out 10 chief ministerial candidates and listed out 10 constituencies, and they formed vigilance squads of 10 people, each perhaps, who would constantly watch these candidates, constantly watch these constituencies. And his request is for all of us, especially under the leadership of Fdca, to do some kind of vigilance, take notice, and inform the Election Commission of India, take legal action. And we have a police officer here, former, we have a great activist in the, go to the next speaker, and that is Mr. Arvind Narayan, the president of PUCL, Karnataka at the moment. We used to remember those days, Arvind. Fdca started a long time ago, and a constant speaker in these kind of circles used to be Professor Hassan Mansoor and his wife Hasnat Mansoor. They used to always be there, and they used to represent PUCL. God bless them, that couple who did a lot of fantastic work. And now Mr. Arvind will speak on money, power in elections. Arvind.
Thank you, Mr. With your permission, I'd like to really address the entire issue of criminalization of politics, which was Ravi Kumar's earlier address. Because I have one particular concern with the issue. I said I'd like to address the entire issue of criminalization of politics because I had one particular concern. That is, in a time when we see, as Professor Kumar really strongly highlighted, when we see the government as enacting certain forms of criminal actions, what is the place for the good person? And we have that story in terms of the BK-16, in case of the Delhi riots, arrests, range of people who are really defending, supporting in constitutional values are really in jail today. So I think the frame actually should not really be the question of criminalization of politics alone, while agreeing with everything Professor Kumar has said. But the point in the manifesto, where you make point number 3, which is they should uphold constitutional ideals and values like inclusiveness, pluralism, federalism, rule of law, and equal respect and opportunity to all religions, cultures, and languages. I think that should be the frame we should adopt in thinking about even the coming Karnataka elections. And on that particular point, I'd like to begin with the coming to power of the current Mr. Bommai and his chief ministership. What has it meant for point 3, which is the upholding of constitutional ideals and values like inclusiveness, pluralism, federalism, etc. And I think when he came to power, within a month or so, a question was asked to him in Dakshin Kannada about the entire question of moral policing. What do you think about moral policing? The answer is a fairly straightforward answer, which is the idea that, the rule of law, if you believe in the rule of law will take its course. What was the response of the chief minister to that particular question? The chief minister's response was we should behave in a manner that not hurt these sentiments. When these sentiments are hurt, actions and reactions are elicited. And the response to the response of the chief minister came from the chair of the current symposium, Honorable Justice Nagmohan Das, who responded. He said, it's a very important statement, your statement that social morality is to be protected is not an innocent message. It sends out a dangerous message that as far as you are concerned, it is okay to use violence to enforce what some people see as morality. So I think the deeper point we really should address is what is the nature of constitutional values and what is the adherence to constitutional values by political parties or personages. That's one instance I want to give you. The second instance is again a couple of months of the current government coming to power, where this entire question of attacks on churches across Karnataka. The PUC did a report on that particular point, and the facts we found out were, again, going to the question of constitutional values. Article 25 says every person has the right to practice profess, and propagate the religion of their choice. And we know that the Supreme Court in its judgment in Stanislaus had made the point that the word propagate will not amount to the right to convert. Can only the right to transmit the tenets of your faith. That's the only point which is covered under the question of propagate. But what we saw in the course of the church attacks, is what was happening was really people maybe taking inspiration from the idea of the chief minister that rule of law doesn't matter. Basically, people taking the law into their own hands, attacking people praying in their own homes or in their churches, and we saw this entire erosion of the idea of rule of law in the entire question of church attacks. What is the response of the government to that? The response of the government to that is to enact what they called a freedom of religion law, which is what is in effect was what we would call an anti-conversion law. Again, what are the problems of the anti-conversion law? It's not a simple question of regulating the question of conversion alone, because we read the statute carefully. It attacks a couple of very important constitutional principles. It attacks the principle that you have the right to practice and profess the religion of your choice, because any question of conversion now involves a question of the permission of the district collector, involves the question of the matter going before the police authorities, involves a level of bureaucratic regulation which is completely antithetical to the question of constitutional values. The second dimension of this particular law enacted by this current government is that the question of it targets again a very important constitutional value. One is the right to profess the religion of your choice, the right to change the religion of your choice. Again, that's a constitutional freedom which we have. The second tenet which is challenges is, if you read the statute, it talks about the fact that it criminalizes allurement, fraud, inducement, or the promise of marriage for the sake of conversion. Again, when you look at the language of promise of marriage, the Constitution, especially post the Puttaswamy judgment, recognizes the fact that your personal liberties include the right to the food of your choice, the right to practice the religion of your choice, the right to wear the dress of your choice, and the right to practice the faith of your choice, and the right to love the person of your choice. Those are constitutionally protected freedoms. Again, what the Karnataka legislature did by passing this particular law is take away this very, very important freedom which the Constitution gives to us. And one other very important point over here in terms of this particular law is the understanding of allurement. What is allurement in terms of the law? Allurement is defined as, if I give you the promise of a job, give you the promise of medical facilities, give you the promise of a scholarship, in return for you promising to convert. That's the way the law is defined, which is very broadly defined, and we all know what that targets. It targets, if you look at faith, hope, and charity, it targets the premise of charity as far as the Christian faith is concerned. Again, I want to just take you back to again, we look at the question of criminalization, take you back to when a first anti-conversion law was proposed in 1950s by a private member's bill. It came up in Parliament, and the response to that was by the then Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru. And what he said that if you have a bill which gives the police the power to look into the question of conversion, he says it's giving the police too much of power. It gives the police the power of personal interference, and it's something which is absolutely disgraceful and cannot be allowed. That was the language that he used. And he made another very interesting point. He said giving the police too much of power, and then he referenced the fact that in 1950s, small Christian chapel in a place in Bihar, which was desecrated by the crowds. He called that a disgraceful occurrence, and he condemned it. Again, if you look at that, and look at the silence of the current Karnataka establishment, Karnataka government, as well as the union government, on questions which are very integral to the question of constitutional values, you get a sense of what is the fidelity to the question of constitutional values. The two more points I'll make, and I'll stop with this. The second is the entire question of the cow slaughter bill again, or the cow slaughter law again. Again, we look at that. Look at the way the law has expanded its reach. We've understood, if we go back to the directive principles, go back to the Constituent Assembly debates, you understand that there's a certain strand of opinion which says that the cow is sacred as far as a certain religious faith is concerned. But if you look at the criminalization today, it's not the cow. If the Karnataka law expands it beyond the cow to the bull, to the bullock, and to the buffalo under the age of 13 years of age. So what you get from that is nothing other than a concentrated attack on the right to practice the profession of one's choice. That's really where the attack is targeted. The attack is on the right to eat the food of one's choice. Again, you get a question of the constitutional values and the way this particular government has in particular attacked the question of point 3 of your manifesto, which is the notion of constitutional values. The last point I'll make and I'll end with this is the controversy we're all very familiar with, is with the entire hijab controversy. And the only point I want to make on the hijab controversy is referencing again a statement by the education minister. The hijab judgment comes out, and if you read the judgment carefully, what it does is upholds the constitutionality of a government notification which allows for college development committees to prohibit the wearing of the hijab. The education minister comes out with a statement after that saying that the entry into exam halls will be banned to all students wearing the hijab. That's not mandated by the High Court judgment, but that's a position which the government takes up. Again, you go to the question of constitutional values. What is the constitutional value at stake over here? Go to Article 41, the Directive Principles. The state has an obligation to promote the right to education. What we have seen the Karnataka government do is consciously deny the right to education. A question raised by MLA Soumya Reddy indicated that post this government de facto hijab ban policy, 1,110 Muslim girls had to drop out of the second PU. And you look at that and say, this is a government which has a constitutional responsibility under Article 21A, Article non-discrimination under Article 15, as well as under Article 41, to promote and ensure the right to education. What they've done is shut the doors of education as far as students are concerned. And again, you look at that and you say, and I want to take you to the final point on this. Look at the Supreme Court judgment, which is a split verdict between Justice Dhulia and Justice Gupta. And I'll read out to you what Justice Dhulia had to say, which is, I think, very important. He says, under a constitutional scheme, wearing a hijab should be simply a matter of choice. It may or may not be a matter of essential religious practices, but is a matter of conscience, belief, and expression. If it is worn as a matter of choice, it may be the only way a conservative family will permit her to go to school. And in those cases, a hijab is a ticket to education. So the question we have to the Karnataka government is, surely you can't have a policy, de facto policy of prohibiting the hijab, if that conflicts with your fundamental constitutional obligation to ensure that children are in school. So my point, I'd end with this, to say that the broader point we have to address is the question of the betrayal or the erosion of constitutional values which has happened under this particular government, and how they should be held accountable or responsible for this. What are the questions you're going to ask the education minister, Mr. B.C. Nagesh, for the statements he's made? Again, it's very interesting. At that moment, he made those statements. Now you look at it, it's toned down because he realizes he has a constitutional obligation. He can't go. And again, the little more of the factual context which the PUCL report documents is that what we found out is there's a de facto, silent, not expressly, overtly expressed, order given from the very top to schools and colleges across to disallow students from entering wearing the hijab. Again, you look at that and say, surely you have a constitutional obligation. Surely under point 3 of your manifesto, you're betraying constitutional values. And that, I think, is the fundamental point which we should raise in the coming elections.
Yeah, get that fixed, please. Thank you. Upholding these values is again a very, very important aspect of our life. PUCL recently organized a wonderful research and study and publication on the hijab issue, which is fantastic. We congratulate POL and Mr. Arvind for leading that initiative. And also this pain, seeing the betrayal and the erosion of constitutional values right under our noses, literally, and the fact that we are not holding these people who are breaking the law and breaking the constitutional value right in front of us, when we don't hold them up to justice. Then our next speaker is a very accomplished man, Mr. M.G. Devasahayam, former IS and a soldier and a bureaucrat.